Come on.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the only podcast produced by three two-time winners of IMSA's Spirit of the Race Award. You're tuned in to the Check Engine Podcast. We're hosted on Anchor.fm and we are streamed worldwide on all of your favorite streaming platforms. My name is Nick. Tristan is here as well, and coming to us live from vacation at a cabin somewhere, it's Andrew. That is some dedication. What's up, man? How's the vacay going so far?
Oh, it's amazing. I haven't, the last time I took extended time off for any reason was my honeymoon 2 years ago. So this has been long overdue, but it feels amazing.
That's awesome. You cabin somewhere, as far as we know.
Undisclosed location.
In Wisconsin. But yes, oh man, and it's so great.
That's awesome. We appreciate you taking time out of your vacay to join us. Mm-hmm. Did you just not trust Tristan and me to do this on our own?
Well, I mean, this episode specifically is kind of a dumb idea that I had, so I figured I might as well be there to see the result through, if nothing else.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, I guess it's a good transition. What are we going to be discussing this evening?
Well, I mean, this show does maybe not a lot, but a medium amount of livery talk. And there's just something, since all there is to see on racetracks now is like the cars themselves. There's no crowd shots. There's just nothing. It's all focused on the cars and the liveries. It's given me a moment to reflect and think, all right, there are a couple good liveries out there right now, but in the field of all racing, there are very few great ones at this exact moment. So if we were to design perfect liveries, what would they look like? And more importantly, what sponsors would be on them? Like no limits, even companies that have never really sponsored race teams before. What would you put on a car to make it look as cool as possible? Just in terms of the livery.
This is going to be an interesting one to do, given the fact that there's no visuals.
And we don't have the ability to create the visuals.
We really don't. We might be able to send this or send our requests into Nick Orth and have him design some iRacing cars for us based on what we say.
That would be cool, but it does sound expensive.
Or you could just listen to this, Nick. And,
nice.
Hear our request. But yeah, this is going to be interesting. I agree. Like, I think there's reasons, and we'll get into that as we kind of dive deeper into the topic a little bit later. But I think there's reasons why liveries are the way they are right now, and why there's really not like those wow liveries anymore, like the ones that like this is going to be a classic. But we'll get into that later as we try to fumble our way through this with liveries. Before we get into that, though, as we normally do on this webcast podcast.
Oh God!
Wow, words. So we normally do on this podcast. We start out with a segment we'd like to call Pace Slaps. Any quick news tidbits, neat cars, anything like that. So who here has some news for us?
I have a neat car.
You have a neat car. Go.
As always, it's kind of a neat car with quotes around it. I will, the day this episode goes up, I will also post this on our Instagram account because I got a photograph.
Oh, right.
So I was driving along, going to pick up dinner, and something I almost cannot describe appeared to me on the road. it was a relatively older model Mini Cooper.
Okay.
Still the BMW ones, but not a classic, but an older one of those. And it had just the most elaborate bodywork and everything else involved. It was someone's passion project, and a magnificent question of taste. It had oversized wheels, a non-color matched rear tailgate. The whole thing was silver, except the rear tailgate was flat black. I assume it was just unpainted. Maybe it's going to be, maybe it was just primed. Who knows? However, the pièces de résistance, both of them, actually, there's 6 total pieces of resistance. The Mini has the dual muffler tips, as we know.
Yes.
This guy has decided to attach some kind of, let's be charitable and call it a high flow muffler. Basically, where those exhaust tips come out. So beyond the rear bumper of the Mini, at a 45-degree angle, it has a little exhaust tail. And then on all 4 corners, there are only what can be described as bushwhacker-style fender flares.
Okay.
So that's what I saw the other day, and I almost couldn't process what I was seeing.
Then I think it's mission accomplished for that guy.
Yeah, it seems like that was
point.
Seems like that was the goal.
I don't get it. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who don't, or who wouldn't if they saw it. But, more power to you, man, if you can make some sort of home-built passion project contraption and make it street legal and able to go get groceries in it or whatever you want to do with it. More power to you, man. Go for it. Go for it.
I guess. I don't really support that. To do stuff that's actually cool. But,
Well, if he thinks it's cool, yeah, more power to him.
I think cool is objective. And here's proof.
I'm ready.
Buick. Remember them? They built cars 25 years ago and somehow are still building cars.
They're big in China, aren't they?
They are big in China. That is fair enough. Good. But sort of, stateside here, I particularly have been watching them flounder with some amount of interest simply because I think it's clear that GM has put themselves in a position with Buick where they will have to kill the line in America sooner rather than later. However, they can't seem to find the stones, A, to do it, or B, to find a reason to do it. And I think it may be partially because if they do that, Cadillac is also on the way out, and they could end up very easily with 0 luxury brands. Anyways, they're throwing shit at the wall at this point. And the problem is with that, whether it's the, not your granddad's or dad's Buick, whatever that was their campaign before, or you trying to bring it over all these nice Opals, but not the good ones or the interesting ones, just like turbo engines, and they got rid of turbo engines and put V6s. It's just they're just trying whatever. So their latest attempt, from Automotive News here, Buick taps Alexa to attract younger buyers.
Have you seen the commercial yet?
I have not.
Hey, Alexa.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Well, and then they actually have people saying, instead of, as it drives by, instead of, one person will be like, oh, nice Buick. And then the person standing next to him will be like, that's an Alexa. They're correcting him.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah, that's someone gets in the car and they're like, you like my new Alexa? And the person's like, I thought this was a Buick. And the person's like, no, watch. Oh, hey, Alexa, give us directions to blah, blah, blah grill or whatever it was. And then that's how they that's the ad campaign now. That's not a Buick. That's an Alexa.
Jesus fucking Christ. That is so much worse. That is
And as I just described that, the Alexa over my shoulder has gone off 4 times.
Right, of course. That is so much worse than I came in this expecting it to be. I was just going to point out that nobody in the entire world of any age and any generation likes any of this shit. Alexa does not work. It is a busted technology. The way they've created their phrasing is far too complex and specific to be of any use. Tristan, you can speak to this. You've dabbled in all 3 of the main ones. You know that Alexa now is like Cortana was 5 years ago, and Cortana was shit. Just bottom of the barrel, like completely useless.
Yeah, I mean, it's tied into a lot of stuff. Like, there are a lot of skills for it, so it can do a lot of things if you can get it to understand you.
Well, here's the perfect example, right? So we use it for we have 2 automated plugs in the house. One for a light in the living room, one for the light in the bedroom. That is simple enough. And it works, I would say, about 87 to 90% of the time to work on, to turn on or off those 2 things. We have 2 lights in the house, and we have them assembled in our home, both of which Alexa knows about. However, given those pieces of information, if you say, Alexa, turn off all the lights in the house, she cannot understand it. That is not a useful assistant. It doesn't fucking do a thing. It doesn't do anything.
I trapped my personal assistant of choice, Siri, into a problem with that phrase, but that's because I made a scene called "All the Lights," and she's not quote unquote she's not allowed to turn off scenes. Gotcha. So when you say turn off all the lights, she's like, oh, I can't turn off a scene. Once I deleted that scene, I renamed it something else, like lights on or something.
Yeah.
Once I renamed it, then it was fine. Like, she could interpret that and turn off every light we have, and we've got a bunch. We've got like probably 20, 25 bulbs. Jeez. And that's no problem. Piece of cake.
Alexa can't do that. Even if you, all right, this isn't just to go into specifics of what I've tried with fucking Alexa. My whole point is, it's from one of the richest company in the world, right? And as far as I'm concerned, they haven't put $50 into developing Alexa. As a technology assistant, a verbally activated technology assistant. They haven't put any money into that. But what they have put the money into is and I think this is probably why Buick/GM wants it, Alexa is a really, really good spy, specifically in terms of driving ad revenue. And if I'm any judge of what GM is trying to do here, they just want it in as many cars as possible so they can maybe start to horn in on what will almost certainly end up being ads in your car on your in-dash entertainment. There's only one way this is going. That's further down the road. That's my prediction. But my point for now is Buick does not know what they're doing. They're doing everything wrong. And for all the good this will do for their brand, they may have just changed their brand text identity to fucking impact font. This doesn't matter, and no one wants it.
Yeah, I never even thought about it in a car, to be honest with you, before I saw the commercial. Like, oh,
yeah, I mean, okay. I'm used to having my assistant of choice available through CarPlay or Android Auto. But that's the thing. But that's because my phone is in the car.
Right. Right. The one thing you travel with, the one thing that has all your contacts, all your everything, if you're syncing that in 2 places, first of all, you are an idiot. Second of all, no one even takes the time to do that. And no one has or uses reliably Alexa in their phone. Amazon tried to have a device and they don't. That's kind of where it stops.
Yeah, but Buick is, as Buick
it's
normally
an Alexa.
does, Yeah, no, and a move that we could say, yeah, that's what Buick does. They're putting all their eggs in that basket. Like the ad doesn't feature anything else about the vehicle itself.
God, how I wish they would run out of fucking eggs. I mean, that was kind of my point at the beginning.
Just run out of eggs.
Yeah,
the basket is empty.
If you're throwing shit at a wall, even if something sticks, you have shit on your wall.
True. And the floor.
Well, right. And the floor.
Yes, there's a trickle down effect.
What's your next move?
Literally gross.
Yeah, I don't know. Came as a surprise to me for sure.
Yeah, no, that's way worse than I thought. But that is all I have for news. Oh my God, no, it's not. The time, has come, ladies and gentlemen. I have a rental car review.
Ooh, yeah.
More than that, I have a long-term rental car review.
Hey, yes.
A few weeks ago, Meg got rear-ended, or rather, Meg was rear-ended by someone who was rear-ended. That other person was also rear-ended, and some guy, like 5 cars back, smashed in the back of a line at a red light. Fucking idiot. Anyways, the Kona is out of commission, and as a replacement, she got a newest generation Chevy Equinox base model.
Okay.
It's horrible. It's okay.
That's a great review.
Maybe that's a little unfair. It has the base engine, so it's 170 horsepower, something like that. Too little to move that car anywhere meaningfully. But the worst part about the engine is that it has a shockingly aggressive resonance frequency at exactly 2,000 RPM. And that's where the car sits most of the time.
Yeah, just above
change the resonance frequency, or change the resonance frequency, or change the gearing. For the love of God.
Yes, it's one of the really good ones that says wow 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 wow. It's like, oh my God. It also has some sort of thermonuclear fabric on the seats where if you put it in the sun for 3 minutes, they retain heat better than anything I've ever experienced. I thought it had seat heaters because we got out of the car, ran into the store for something, and my seat was in full sun, and I thought there was a seat heater. It was so hot, and it just didn't decrease. So that's nice. That's a cool new fabric. Science. I don't know. I think my primary issue with the car is that the only way I can see anyone would choose it over a RAV4, a CRV, a Tucson, any of that is that yeah, the only reason anyone would choose it is if they had not driven anything else.
GM lifers. Just getting the next GM car in the line.
Yeah. But it comes with all of the safety features you can imagine. None of them work in the way you'd expect because GM. Like the backup cam operates for 10 or so seconds when you put it in drive. I just thought it was broken at first. Like, oh, it's that way forever now. But I guess it's just kind of way. I don't know. It's not for me. Let me say it that way.
Yeah, that is a GM thing. My Colorado, the backup cam stayed on. I don't know if it's a full 10 seconds, but it is enough to make you, it is enough to make you do a double take.
It's probably 3 seconds, honestly.
Yeah.
It just feels like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
But it doesn't change as soon as you shift out of reverse. Like you need to be rolling before it's rolling forward before it turns off, I think. Yeah. So it's like, it does make you kind of go, wait, what? Aren't you supposed to? Oh, okay, there it is. Yeah, now it's switched. Like,
especially
it's something that you didn't get used to. Like you didn't get
when
used
you're in an unfamiliar area and you're like, okay, boom, look for my car's in drive. And I need to look for instructions. And it's just the ass end of the car. And you're like, no.
Yeah, I guess that would be the. I love my Colorado. Loved before I traded in my Colorado, but I guess that would have been the one thing I would change. Is just like as soon as you put it in drive, you're obviously not backing up anymore. Like just turn the camera off,
Please.
Like, I wonder what the reasoning behind that is.
No idea.
I have too many cameras on mine.
Ah, yes, you do have many cameras.
But sometimes I'll change into drive from reverse and want to see what's directly in front of me, and I hit my front facing camera and it just like whoa. I can't go that fast from the back one to the front one. Are you kidding? That's the only problem I've had with mine. Otherwise it's pretty responsive. Like, so it can be done, GM. But
I wonder, just from a technology side, and this is nothing to go into at all, but I wonder if it's somehow related to the way like these things transition. Because in the Hyundai, it's obviously directly programmed to switch when you go into drive gear. Like as soon as you turn it into drive gear, it immediately turns the camera off. But I wonder if that's tied to something like the same system that operates the electric locks.
yeah, like speed based.
I haven't closely paid attention to that, but
Maybe.
I'll try to.
Yeah. See if the camera turns off when the doors lock next time.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know.
It's a good one. I have got some good news. And it's
Good news, everyone.
good news, everyone. And it's directly targeted really at Tristan.
I like good news.
August 28th, first 2021 Audi RS6 Avant wagons arrive on U.S. soil. Tristan, how tingly are your loins?
The Germans are here. I'm very excited. I saw that post. Well, yeah, I know I'm not buying one.
Just saying. Just point it out. Just point out all the people that are getting excited about it and are not buying one.
Yet you can still get excited
one.
about it. Like, you can still get excited about it if you're not buying one. Okay. I mean, you were extremely excited about
I know. You've got the whole right? You've got the whole hang up about like all the jalopnik culture saying like, you know, why don't we get these nice things? And then they complain about not getting them, but then they don't buy them. Well, I can't buy this one.
I know, but once these things pass into meme status, where it's literally by rote that every time this comes out, it's exactly the same. The same thing happens. The same group of people piss themselves in excitement about it. The same group of people never buy one, to do nothing but spend the rest of their lives shitting on the ones that came here and not buying them. I can't do this anymore. It's so exhausting. It's so exhausting.
I don't know. I don't think that deeply about it. I'm just happy that we've got a 591 horsepower twin turbocharged wagon on our soil. Like, I'm really looking forward to seeing them on the road. I'm going to be at dealerships within the next few weeks.
I do wonder how many.
They didn't say. Let's see here. From the Car and Driver article, be arriving at U.S. dealerships in the next few weeks, though the company wouldn't share exactly how many cars were included in this first shipment. An Audi representative said the company already has, quote, many orders. Now, there's more than two from the photos. Here's my thing.
Many.
The Audi representative wouldn't say how many are included in the first shipment. You're standing on the dock watching the first shipment roll off the boat. Couldn't you just count?
At least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, exactly. Let me look here.
You can get an at least number and an at least number, but they finish offloading secretly at 3:30 a.m.
Well, then give us an at least number. There you go. I don't know. You're standing there looking, like, count them up.
Just give me a rough estimate.
Ask the photographer who sent these pictures in to go along with your story. Hey, man, how many do you think you saw there? Like,
maybe some of them were just regular S6s.
Ah, that's a good point. Maybe they couldn't tell. Although they
under the plastic, it would be harder.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. Anyway, I thought that was good news, and I am excited to see them on the road here. See one in person in the wild for the very first time.
I'm wondering where that will be. I bet whenever I get to a race.
You think you see one?
That seems to be the demographic.
That's a good point.
Yeah. I don't know.
Go ahead, Andrew. Sorry.
I was going to say, I don't know. I feel like, I mean, maybe I could be wrong. Maybe they will produce in numbers, but what I was going to say is I think they're going to be so rare that you just don't see them. You see them on TV or like car shows. People talk about them in hushed tones, kind of the way it has been.
Yeah. I'm starting to think, Tristan, as you said that, like, yeah, race would be a good first step, but out by where I live, not exactly where I live, but close to where I live, there's a lot of very wealthy neighborhoods scattered in and around some of these lakes. I mean, I'm not going to say it's commonplace, but I've seen 4 different Ferrari 488s this summer rolling around through the local towns. So like if I see 4 of those, my guess is someone out here is going to get one.
I saw an Urus, actually.
You did?
Oh,
really?
You did?
I did. Yeah.
Where?
I actually forgot about that. Andrew, it was over by your house.
Huh. Ain't that a thing?
Over by that Quick Trip on 59.
That is bizarre. That's a really weird place.
Yep, I saw it coming the other way, and I went, "What the hell? Oh my god!"
Although there's some corridor there, I think, because I have seen a couple other. I've seen at least 2 McLarens going through there as well, a green one and a purple one, and I don't know. There's something going on there.
Something's afoot over there.
So yeah, I'm actually pretty confident that I will be seeing one out here. Then again, I look forward to it.
Time will tell.
Let's see. But they have arrived. They are stateside. Does anybody else have anything else to get into, or do we want to hop into the livery discussion?
Yeah, let's go. I want to get back to my vacay.
All right, folks, we're gonna start designing our own perfect liveries right after this break. Hey, we're back, everybody, and we're about to get into tonight's main topic. But before we do, we'd like to remind you how to get a hold of us if you do feel so inclined. We have our very own website. It is checkenginepodcast.com, and there we have an email address. You can send things to inbox@checkenginepodcast.com. We're also all over the socials. You can find us on Facebook by searching Check Engine Podcast. Andrew, where can they find us on Twitter?
At Check Engine Pod. I posted some pictures and videos of, and I probably should have talked about this, of my trip on the amphibious duck vehicles today, which was fun.
So head to Check Engine Pod on Twitter for more of that. Did you enjoy that?
I did enjoy it. It was a lot of fun. They have like tours, and I haven't done that in a while. I guess apparently since before 2008, as I was reminded today, but it's a good time. It's an interesting motoring experience to be in a completely open vehicle that also goes in the water. That it's kind of like a vision of the way the world could be if everything else was fundamentally different.
Like some kind of bizarre dimension.
Exactly.
Well, cool, man. Tristan, you had mentioned that you're going to post the quote neat car you saw on Instagram. If people want to look at that picture, where should they go?
I would say they should probably go to @CheckEnginePod. However, you'll probably also, oh gosh, almost knocked my microphone over. I was so excited. You will also find it cross-posted to our Twitter and our Facebook accounts if you're just one of those people who can't handle multiple social media accounts.
So we'll see it everywhere, is what you're saying.
Indeed. However, first look is always going to be @CheckEnginePod on Instagram.
So there you have it, folks. Be sure to like, follow, share, post, DM, reach out how and when you can. You can ask us questions to answer on the air. You can let us know what you like or dislike. Give us ideas for episode topics. any of those types of things. So thank you in advance. Now, to get back to the show, the meat and potatoes of this episode is designing liveries for race cars and also adding the sponsors we'd want to accompany those liveries. Andrew, how do you want to get this one going?
Well, I will start with this. At this point, it was a few months ago, but one of the race Vipers, I want to say the Le Mans winning Vipers, went up for sale at auction.
Yes.
And it may have been the one that we saw at Road America a couple years ago. So it's a factory Viper. So it's all red with white pinstripes. But there's one thing about that livery, because it's very plain, but there's one thing about it that just makes it an absolute banger. It has giant PlayStation logos, because that car was also used to advertise Gran Turismo 3 A-Spec, which came out at the same time, and the PS2 as well. So huge launch opportunity for Sony. And the thing is, unlike a lot of liveries that are out there, especially when you look to NASCAR, the best NASCAR liveries have the brand identity as an integral part of the design. The Viper has none of that. It's literally the livery underneath and PlayStation logos, and yet maybe it's just rose-colored glasses, or maybe it's something like that. But when you see that, because I love the car, I like PlayStation, I love that era, all of that stuff appeals to me. But I do think it has a timeless quality to it, and yet from a design standpoint, the logo isn't incorporated. The two are kind of fighting each other, but the whole look together works. And so that kind of got me thinking, all right, if we approach this from a different angle, if we approach liveries from the angle of branding, of design, corporate logos, what do we end up with?
It's a good way to start. It's a good tee up. Do you want to kick us off? Do you have a specific sponsor in mind?
I do, because this one, I intended to start here and move on. But what happened is I started here and got completely stuck because of the brand that it is. So my first thought, and Nick, you'll remember this because you have a drawing or an artistic interpretation of this logo on this Ferrari in your kitchen. I want to say in like 2009 or 2012, AMD sponsored the Ferrari F1 team.
Yes.
And they put the AMD logo in green and black on the all red Ferrari, and it stuck out like a freaking sore thumb, like unbelievably badly. But,
yep.
But there's something about it that's actually kind of cool. And to me, one of the things that I like about it is that version of the AMD logo is really, really similar to what they were using for computer case badges at the time. So they had like one united branding front, which is kind of neat. And AMD has actually sponsored Ferrari for quite some time. And this is where I got stuck, because their affiliation is really deep. AMD has created the computers for Ferrari for them to do their virtual rendering and testing of the actual Ferrari cars. I mean, it hasn't like helped with on-track success necessarily, but it's still kind of
not
cool.
Recently.
Because it actually works bidirectionally, because F1 somewhere in their tome of bylaws has a technology power limit on the amount of computing data that can be used in these simulations. So AMD was fundamentally taking their on-the-rack chips and downclocking them in order to provide them to Ferrari for the rendering. So they were doing this so often that they took that chip that was downclocked and put it on the market as a down market. So it was like one of their premium level chips, but they downclocked it and put it in the market for less. Basically, I mean, it was kind of interesting. Like, they have a very strong I guess, brand affinity, or they've been sponsored each other for a while. However, that also ends this year because in February, AMD announced that they will not be back with Ferrari next year, but they will be back on the Mercedes.
The rich
which is
get
kind of
richer.
interesting. What's that?
The rich get richer.
And how? Anyways, so that was my initial starting point for this. I love the way that branding stuck out on the Ferrari and the way the PlayStation branding stuck out on the Viper. And what's kind of interesting about it is that there are not a ton of mainline tech companies that put themselves on race cars. However, when they do, they're all bangers. Think about that Apple Porsche.
Yep.
I mean, it's just the greatest thing of all time. It's so incredible. So Tristan understands my obsession with where I'm actually going with this a little bit. In the old days, the good old days of computer building, when there were still new technologies to be optimized, back when it was Intel versus AMD, 64-bit processing versus dual core and hyperthreading, graphics cards were the Wild West, specifically graphics card box art. And if you do a Google search for this, you will immediately see what I mean. There are hundreds of examples of unbelievably ridiculous renderings. There's aliens, there's androids, there's, I don't know, this appears to be a guy with like military grade rockets on his back. There's, this is a dog here in gladiator armor. There is a woman with a rainbow robot iris coming out of the top of her head. That one's a fairy. That one's a Pegasus. There's just there's so much fun to these. There's so much design went into creating these boxes.
Radeon X550 is my favorite.
Radeon X550. I'm a big fan of the Radeon. I think it's the X850, which was a Minotaur, a whole Minotaur. But there's something to this. There's life. And it just got me thinking. There are a few cases throughout racing history where scenes were put on the sides of cars instead of brand logos. You know what I mean? There was that Audi, that Le Mans Audi, Tristan, that you were talking about.
Yeah, the alligator one.
Alligator one, yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, the Pink Pig Porsche, a classic livery, truly classic. So it just got me thinking. AMD is still in the game. What if, and I think this would be something that would be exceedingly cool, specifically on an F1 car. AMD, for those who don't know, several years ago bought the graphics card company ATI. They still brand things under ATI, however, it's basically ATI AMD. And I think that there could be an opportunity for something amazing on an F1 car. Maybe it's like a top-down view of a dragon just over the top of the whole car with the rest of the logos kind of like badged on, or maybe they're angled in sort of like along the scale, something like that. What else could we do? We could do just like a flowing liquid render. Those were always super popular with graphics cards, even to this day. There's like liquid metal type shit. Mm-hmm. Any other fantasy creatures? Maybe the whole thing is fire. Maybe it's electricity. I mean, there are just like endless options for this. Oh, maybe it's sort of something that like the old silver Arrow Mercedes liveries suggested, where you kind of take the opportunity to wrap the car in shapes that kind of emphasize the mechanical nature of it, right? Right now, Gigabyte does a lot of this. It's like the Gigabyte GeForce RTX box looks like a car headlight. You know what I mean? It's like super angular and everything's ultra emphasized with additional lines. I mean, there's like infinite iterations of something like this where you could take AMD and ATI branding in pride of place and make the car look unlike anything that's even close to a racetrack right now. I think that would be so amazing. I would love to see it.
I like the creativity of it. I think from the marketing side of things, and again, this is just coming from like my perspective on the whole thing, not saying yours is wrong. I'm just like, my thought is if the livery itself gets too busy, you're not going to be able to see the sponsor logos you need to see.
But what about the Red Bull Racing? That whole car is covered tip to tail in Red Bull. There are other sponsors on them, but
Yeah, and I think the thing, like, I mean, look at that alligator Audi. You know, I mean, there are situations where just by being art, people know that, oh, that's that crazy AMD car, and the recognition appears immediately. Because it's so unique. Like, yeah, there's I don't know, there's the aspect or the angle of turning your car into a billboard to get the clearest branding across. But there's also the idea of like turning your car into, you know, an icon of design that immediately evokes the name.
Yeah. I did actually consider what you said there, Nick, but the Red Bull car was my eventual counterpoint. Like that, everything on that is Red Bull. Every inch of it is Red Bull, but there are other sponsors on there. And I think the Apple Audi is also the same, although that has a lot more like breathing white space. So I think, that probably isn't the best example, but I don't know. I think Intel would have a shot at this as well. Obviously, NVIDIA, they sponsor everything in the world in terms of hardware.
Intel isn't allowed to sponsor anything until they get their act together. Move on.
Wait, what did Intel do? What did Intel do to you?
They can't produce chips fast enough, and they are terrible compared to the AMD ones.
That's Foxconn.
They need to get back. They need to get back on the. They need to get back on the train, and then they can start sponsoring stuff.
That's right. This is not the podcast for that discussion.
No, but it's my opinion. Shush.
What? But I know. But Tristan, just put your anger aside for a minute and picture.
No. When do you ever do that?
I don't need to do that. Just picture a car like the old-fashioned Intel inside, motherboard solder arm design, but with the Intel Extreme logo right in the center. That would be cool.
Yeah, that would be neat.
It would be from the future.
From the future. I love the future.
Oh my god, the future.
Other cool tech brands, just freebies. Corsair would be awesome.
Yeah, the pirate ship.
Yeah,
Razer.
Good. Yes, Razer, of course. I mean, I thought about like Xbox, but you know how that's going to go. Xbox branding only goes one way. It's not that fun.
Yeah, it's pretty. It's pretty consistent. You know what it's going to be, like you said. Yeah,
I would love a PS5 car from Sony.
I would imagine they're going to at some point, just because there's a new Gran Turismo already confirmed for PS5.
Mm-hmm.
So somewhere in the world, you're going to see a GT3 car that's got the Sony and the PS5 logos on it. Will the design be based around Sony and PS5? Probably not. Yeah. But you're going to see the Gran Turismo logo and or the PS5 logo and or the Sony logo on a car probably next year, I would guess, because the PS5 is coming out later this year, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
So yeah, I would say next race season, we're going to see it somewhere.
But just imagine a pure like Sony main sponsor livery where it's black and white or primarily white with black accents like the PS5, and the logo, they do the, you know how Sony has that double brand with Sony, the letters, and then the triangle, circle, square, X underneath.
Yep.
The same. Oh, come on. With the colors, come on.
And the car would have to be number 5.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Just to bring it home.
Oh, man. Imagine seeing that. Now, that would be wild. On the NASCAR track, though, oh, that would kill.
Yeah, that would be pretty sweet.
Never would happen.
On a Cup car. Yeah, it's not going to happen, though. Sony's not going to invest their money in the NASCAR audience.
Hell no. Although, maybe they should. Anyways, they move a lot of Call of Duty units. Whatever.
Okay. Well, and NASCAR Heat 5.
Super true.
They have a pretty popular video game the past few years. So,
yeah. Anyways, tech companies was my number one spot, specifically AMD. You're right there, AMD. You're right there. Just do it.
But there is something to be said, though, and it happens a lot more in Europe than it does here, where, like, I feel like a lot of times here in the States, you try to incorporate the logo into the scheme and into the design, with meaning, like, for instance, like we host on Anchor, right? Their logo is purple. Mm-hmm. It might be in white text on a black background, though, if it's, if someone puts it on a car here, for instance. But over in Europe, car might be black, car might be yellow, car might be red. The logo is probably still going to be purple. And it's that contrast that makes it stand out there. Sometimes it almost looks like you just put random stickers on in a garage.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it gets you to look. It makes you notice, because it's not all like one blended thing. Like, there's something that pops. So kind of a long-winded way of saying, AMD's, green and white on the Ferrari red actually looked pretty cool because it stood out so much.
Yeah, and that's one reason why I get so annoyed at the First Form sponsored Lamborghini in IMSA, because it's just like, it sticks out so bad, and also obviously because it's just a giant 1 on the side of the car. It's just it's chaos.
Yeah, just given the way the number plates are distributed, how the teams are supposed to put the numbers on their cars in IMSA. So you've got on the door, you've got a square number decal with the car's actual number. I think the car's actual number is 16.
It's so annoying. And
then right next to it is another square with a number 1 in it. It's
inside
like,
a circle.
Like, you can't tell if that's the
right.
You can't tell if that's the sponsor or the number, or but we're talking about it. We just said their name on the podcast, so it's working, right?
If you subscribe to the any publicity is good publicity. However, I think if they're getting slammed, that's not as great publicity.
I guess maybe then, just to balance it out, I'll just say I have no idea what that company does, nor do I want to know. No one tell me.
Okay.
Yeah, me neither. I just know the name.
Yeah.
They're
all right.
First at forming things.
Apparently.
Cool.
Who's next?
With a PH. I'll go next.
What's that?
I will go next.
You can go next.
So for my car, Andrew, you kind of hit on a similar feeling that I had towards stuff. You were like, what are the tech companies doing? And they have all this great visual weight, visual clout, and why aren't they putting it on race cars?
You're going to say TikTok.
What?
I said you're going to say TikTok.
No, God, no. It's not a tech company. And I kind of had the same thought, but with a different industry. And I know this is, Nick's gonna hit me with the boring marketing brick. No one's ever gonna do this. Who would, these companies would never sponsor a race car, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. I think the livery would be great. So actually I was inspired by a stroll through, visiting my local REI.
Okay.
Oh boy.
So
Are you painting a Bob Ross scene on your car?
I thought about that for a while, but then I felt a need to go a little bit more abstract than that. You wouldn't want to just be too on the nose, but I was looking at all this iconography that the outdoor brands have. Things like Arc'teryx, and the Osprey, the backpack company.
Patagonia.
Yep. They have, Patagonia has great text. Osprey has a great visual logo. Arc'teryx has a great visual logo. Granite Gear looks great. Even like the mostly the tent company, Kelty has a simple but visually striking logo. As like these would look great on race cars. And some of them might even look good alone. Like Osprey, I think would look great spread out on a hood. But same with Arc'teryx. But where could we put these all together? And I was like, well, duh, you're standing in it, an REI store. So my thought would be the REI has done some very, Nick, I think you probably draw qualms with it because it's not consistent. They're out there exploring and testing new merchandise logos for their members only stuff, and it ranges from like crossed pickaxes to more like a seal to block text, that kind of thing. But they've got so many interesting versions of their own logo, and I think that would look great spread out on the hood.
Like all the logos on the hood, or like rotating them?
No, you'd be able to choose different ones for different races, different cars, etc. But there are quite a few that would all fill a good place, as place of pride, large on the hood. And then I was also inspired actually for the actual kind of the paint scheme part of it, not just the logo, but the paint, actually by a livery I did, in a video game all the way back. I think it was like Forza 2 or something, that I did actually on a Porsche Cayman, where it had this series of triangles basically that fade from back to front. They're darkest in the back. And I thought that could be something, as you could kind of turn that into stylized mountains. With a dark, kind of starting like forest green as the base. Kind of, everybody's seen the, Subaru in that color, that kind of light forest green. Use that as the base, and then varying shades of gray, dark blue, and darker green. Going backwards on the car, they're the lightest in the front and they're the darkest on the back. Kind of forming a stylized, mountainscape. And then you can find places for the other sponsors inside that.
I like that.
Place the Osprey logo above the mountains like it's flying there. Make the Kelty logo, which kind of looks like a mountain, one of the mountains. That kind of thing. So that was my grand artistic, I don't know, stroke. I had a stroke. I don't know. I was jokingly talking about even just this afternoon about, I couldn't wait to tell you guys my paint idea, because I was like, I'm horribly uncreative and this is going to be terrible. Because I had come up with the idea for what I wanted to put on the car. Like I wanted it to be an REI car, and I had because I thought the other outdoor company logos were so cool, but I couldn't figure out how I wanted to actually paint the car. And that actually arrived like a lightning bolt while I was eating dinner.
I wonder about that. brands or a store that specializes in all these brands, how that permission wise would work, or
yeah, I would imagine you'd have to like obviously get permission from each of the brands individually and have them sponsor you. But I think because there are probably already cross marketing agreements with REI for all these brands to put it in like their marketing materials, I think hashing out an agreement to put them all together on a car, they already go all together in an email or a flyer or a catalog, you know?
Right. It comes with the deal that you sign as a manufacturer with those stores, with the distributors. Like, if you look back at all of the different, when Target used to sponsor Ganassi's Indy cars forever, like they were a Dixon sponsor for the first 15 years of his career, you see the Clorox and the Downy and the Oreos and like all, and sometimes they even run like a different scheme. Like you still have the Target bullseye on the side, but it's a black car with Energizer logos. Like they kind of rotate just whoever those partners are. And, for the company we work for, Tristan, we're incorporated on the Fastenal NASCAR Cup car because we sell through Fastenal. So
interesting. I actually didn't know that.
Either on the trunk lid, or I think the last time I saw us, our logo was actually on the hood above the main Fastenal logo. So like closer to the windows, like closer to the front windshield. You'll see our logo on that car. And it's just part of the deal, I guess you can say, for dealing with Fastenal. Like we don't actually, I know for a fact that our brand leadership doesn't want that. It's just something they're putting up with because it's not part of their strategy. But like if you can get a store like that or a dealer, you can open a runway to a lot of different brands. So I think that's actually a really good idea. And no one's ever really done it with outdoor. Where I think where it would really play well, where it would really resonate. NASCAR truck. I was even thinking, what about Baja?
Yeah.
What about that new? It's coming next year. I don't know if you guys even know about this. It's called Extreme E, the electric SUV races.
Oh boy.
Well, I mean that would be on brand too for REI.
It would be on brand. And here, hang on. Extreme E Series. So there's 7 teams, inaugural season 2021. The calendar, they're racing in Senegal, in the desert in Saudi Arabia, on a glacier in Nepal, in Greenland, through the rainforest in Brazil. Like they're racing in all these crazy locations. Actually, they're looking like Catherine Legg is going to be one of the drivers, according to this article.
Probably from her iPace ties.
Yeah, exactly. So to have an REI, Osprey, all of these other brands on that car or that SUV rolling through the Amazon rainforest or a glacier in Nepal, I think that would be like, that's exactly where those brands want to be.
Yeah, I think that's a great addition, Nick.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Plus, I love the fact that you went with the like the two-tone green with like blue and gray accents, because how many outside of like the two factory Aston Martins and the 2 factory Bentley cars, like how many green race cars do you see?
Yeah, you used to see them like obviously like bright green is a little bit different, but like you saw like the Jags had green in them too. But that's basically because they're very, very close to Aston's in sensibility. but yeah, it was about 2/3 of an idea that was going to crash and burn because it was going to look like you said, Nick, just somebody stuck a bunch of stickers on their car in their garage. I was very worried about the actual artistic side of things, and I was sitting there eating a brat, and boom, here comes the idea.
Sweet.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think it's got a lot of play in the, especially with like Baja or Extreme E, or even the trucks too. I mean, they're already sponsored by like the title
Camping
sponsor of
World.
the series is Gander Outdoors or whatever they call it now since the buyout. But it would have a play there as well. I like it. All right, my turn.
Your turn.
All right. So I had mentioned earlier that I have a theory on why liveries are the way they are nowadays and why there's not that many real good unique ones. Like a vast majority of the cars you see out there are predominantly black or white or gray or some sort of neutral tone that really goes with anything. And I think that's just because the nature of the sponsorship game nowadays, like it's very rare that you find a sponsor for the whole year, like a partner like a Target was for Ganassi or like DuPont was for Jeff Gordon back in the day, right? Where it's just like every race, it's going to be, the Rainbow Warrior car, right? Like you don't get that much anymore. So if you're selling sponsorship on a race by race basis, you're going to need something rather generic that will look presentable with whatever logo you put on there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as a result, usually the only splashes of color you see now are like on the splitters or the mirrors or the spoilers, something that's kind of easy to swap out, because that, even though if you want like a splash of red or orange or whatever it is, that's still going to be a decent accent to a black or a gray or a white car. So one of the first things I wanted to do with this is make the livery a color or colors that are going to stand out. And I also wanted to find a sponsor. The next kind of layer to this is that it's, as I talked with, name drop here, with Aaron Telitz about when I was interviewing him, like a sponsorship now isn't just, hey, I want to go racing. Can you put your sticker on my car? There's got to be some sort of business benefit or some other way for the business to justify doing it. So the sponsor needs to be something that could find some relevance in the audience, or even with maybe potential business to business deals in other areas of the paddock. So I found what I think is a great sponsor to base a livery on. You guys might remember it. They have a booth set up whenever we're at Road America. It's Soundhouse, Sounhaus, the custom earplug company.
Huh.
Okay.
Well, think about it this way, Andrew. I don't all the time, but unless I have earmuffs on, if I'm listening to a scanner. Andrew, you always have earplugs in at a racetrack.
Definitely true.
Tristan, you
often
have earplugs in. You also go to a shooting range, right? So you have hearing protection for that. And think of what Soundhouse can do with activation and sales. Tristan, you spent a lot of time in their booth a couple years ago. Were you getting fitted for the customs, or were you just asking them about pricing or something like that?
Yeah, we were talking about pricing.
Yeah. So think of all the fans who go to racetracks on weekends who need hearing protection. There's an instant customer base. Think of the competitors, the drivers who need the custom molds so they won't fall out through the vibration of the car, something that could easily like run a radio wire and a speaker in. So they have an opportunity to create partnerships with multiple different teams all the way up and down the garage area. Plus, if you look at their logo, it is the actual emblem kind of looks like an hourglass kind of tilted on its side a little bit, but it's made out of just, it's kind of simplistic, made out of straight lines, but it's like a color spectrum from cyan blue and then there's two shades of darker blue. The big line in the middle is purple, and on the other side, orange, yellow, red. Or red, orange, yellow, sorry, in that order. So how cool would it be to incorporate the Soundhouse logo and color scheme on a car? Maybe an iridescent scheme, so as the light hits it, you're seeing either the cyan blue that's in the logo or the purple that's in the logo. Maybe the accent striping on the car could be the yellow, orange, red piece, and have just that their full color spectrum with their logo emblazoned down the side. I think would be just epic. I think it would stand out, and I think it's a sponsor that could find a lot of relevance in the fans and competitors of the sport.
Definitely true.
So
there's a lot of marketability there.
There's a ton of marketability there. So yeah, I would see like a base would be kind of the dark blue, but as the light again shifts or changes, you get the lighter cyans, the purple in there, and maybe pinstriping or racing stripes with the orange, red, and yellow, again, depending on how the light hits it. So like no two people are actually like, if I'm sitting on the hill on the outside of turn 5 and 6 at Road America, and someone is sitting right across the Corvette bridge from us on the inside of turn 6, we're not looking at the same car because the light's hitting
pearlescent paint, right?
Is it iridescent, pearlescent? Yeah.
Pearlescent, I think.
Yeah. So no two people, depending on where they're sitting and their vantage point, are looking at the same car. That's going to stand out. Like that's going to make an impact on people, and people are going to remember that name, and they're probably going to go figure out, if they don't see the activation tent, they're going to go look and say like, well, who is this Soundhouse? Like what's their deal? So that's the way I approached it. There's not a lot of big design, like kind of the opposite of what Andrew is doing here with like potentially dragon scales or detailed licks of fire, or Tristan's mountain scenes. I think the
Bob Ross paintings, we can call them that.
Yeah, the Bob Ross scene. It's not that, but the colors will stand out enough where I don't know if all the big, bold design elements like that are even needed.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, yeah, how many pearlescent race cars have there ever been like on a major track in a major series?
I really don't know.
I mean, I always make them in Forza is what I'm thinking. Like I always make them in Forza.
You Google pearlescent race car, and it's almost all video game screenshots.
Well, exactly. I mean,
there are some custom shops, like custom tuning shops, like SEMA cars that have it, but I'm not seeing like open wheel or GT cars that have it. Like for on track.
I wonder if there are regulations against that kind of thing.
Why would there be?
Just maybe it's because, obviously they rely on numbers also, but like spotters and stuff are looking at colors, and colors that change might be kind of hard. I don't know.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Because I was going to say like
so non-existent that I was like, maybe there's a rule.
I mean, it's a good point. I haven't detailed the rule books that much.
Maybe it's just a bunch of people with poor imaginations making race cars. I don't know.
Well, I was just thinking, you might be on some there, because we've seen everything else. There's, the super bright metallic gold on the Hertz Porsche and a bunch of other cars. We've seen matte colors. We've seen like satin colors. We've seen cars that are covered in rainbows.
We've seen highlighter yellow,
handprints,
highlighter
yellow,
highlighter yellow. Yeah, every blaze or safety color you can come up with. Indescribable colors that don't have a name, but not color shifting. That's really interesting. I want to know.
I think it's just a creative way to, like, it's it's creative and stands out, but it's also simple enough where like you can easily drop logos in. You don't have to worry about them not being red, because you can basically put them in white and it would stand out against almost any of the colors that, you know, the pearlescent would shift to, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I love the idea.
I think it's a great idea.
I'm just wondering now. I'm just wondering why there aren't more or any that I can find pearlescent race cars.
That is weird. Definitely.
And hey, guys, not for nothing. If we were ever to get enough money to throw CEP on the side of a race car, you don't see a lot of orange race cars out there either. Like our like true orange. Like you've got Murillo with their badass copper. It
used to be orange though.
That used to be like orange. Yeah, they changed it. But you don't see that really. I think we could, like, if you look back, folks, if you go to our, it might have been shared on the other socials, but for sure on Facebook, our friend Nick Orth, who I mentioned earlier in the podcast, painted the RS3 Audi, the TCR car on iRacing in check engine podcast colors. That's mainly orange with some white and black and either gunmetal gray or black accents on it. And it looks fantastic. It is absolutely phenomenal. Like I would kill to see this in real life.
Yeah, no, it does look really, really good.
So like I hope we get big enough where we can sponsor somebody, because our car is going to stand out too, just because of the color pattern that we have.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Anybody got anything else?
I really don't. I'd like to hear what our listeners think would make for a good livery and sponsor combination, though.
Definitely.
So,
agreed.
Yeah, we mentioned how to get a hold of us. Let us know. What would your cars be? You know, what colors, what sponsor, how would you make the design? How would you incorporate the logos into the design? Let us know all that stuff. But yeah, other than that, man, I think we're good to let you get back to your vacation.
That sounds great. I'm going to go have dinner now, actually.
Oh, shit.
That's a late dinner.
That's a little bit of a late dinner. Time kind of got away from me, but that's okay.
Oh, shit. Well, thanks, Andrew, for taking time out of your vacation. And thanks to the listeners for sticking with us today. We appreciate you listening. We don't want you just to listen. Like I said, we want to interact with you. What liveries, what sponsors would you put on the side of a race car? We already mentioned how to find us online. Be sure also to leave us a review on your streaming platform, preferably a good one. You can slide over and hit that 4th or hopefully 5th star for us. That'd be great. You can also hit the subscribe button. Doesn't cost you anything, and all that's going to happen is you get a notification whenever we release any new content. So really no harm, no foul. If you're really into what we're doing and you'd like to support us monetarily, so maybe we can go ahead and sponsor a car and turn it bright orange sometime soon. You have two options for that. You can go to patreon.com/checkenginepodcast or on anchor.fm/checkenginepodcast. Right under our logo, there is a support button. You can hit that there. Every cent pledged is put toward making this podcast a better experience for you, the listener, and now maybe towards sponsoring a race car. None of it goes back into our personal pockets, though. Again, thank you in advance. Guys, who or what are we thanking before we get out of here?
I would like to just thank the people in the little, not even so little. We're in a tourist trappy sort of destination, or outside of it, anyways. Almost the end of the season, and it's kind of dead here, obviously, because COVID and school starting and stuff, but everything is open, everything is serving, everything's available, and most importantly, everybody here, despite the fact that it is like touristy and by its nature designed for large groups of people at the same time, unlike what you would expect out of the state of Wisconsin, everybody gives a shit about social distancing and sanitizing and cleaning, and it has been an excellent pandemic vacation experience.
Well, that's good to hear.
Right?
Surprising to hear, too.
Super surprising.
Tristan?
I want to thank Benadryl. And not for the reason you might think.
I know the reason.
The reason that I would like to thank Benadryl is it makes the dog sleepy.
Mm.
We've had a series of thunderstorms and the battery and the smoke alarm dying, and all of that has generated a significant amount of anxiety in our youngest dog, and therefore has generated not a lot of sleep in me. So I would like to thank Benadryl for allowing me to sleep.
I would actually like to hop on that train and thank Benadryl as well, because not only does it make dogs sleepy, it makes girlfriends sleepy.
Oh gosh!
No, Claire was stung.
What are we doing?
Claire was,
What are we doing? Hey, it's an on-label use for dogs. Anti-anxiety.
Claire was stung by a wasp or a hornet yesterday, and she has an allergy. So, jokingly, yes, it made her very sleepy, but it also kept the reaction from being super severe. So
it probably saved the trip to the hospital. So.
Yeah, probably did. So we'll take
double thank you, Benadryl.
Double thank you, Benadryl. And as always, thank you, listeners, for your continued support. We love hearing from you. We love recording this for you, and we cannot wait to speak to you again. But until then, take care.